72 and Schedule 1. I call the Honourable David Parker.
Mr Chairman, Part 2 sets up the electricity industry governance and creates this new authority called the Electricity Authority that effectively replaces the Electricity Commission. Now, we shouldn't fool ourselves, Mr Chairman, that this makes a substantial difference to competition in the market. It does make a difference in that it takes away some of the functions that you would think do need some governance, like how clean your electricity is, a focus on renewables, a focus on efficiency of use. Those sorts of functions are stripped out of what used to be the Electricity Commission, and by and large they're not replaced in this new authority called the Electricity Authority. And that's a step backwards that I can't understand the logic for, and I asked the Minister to explain why they call that progress. But more particularly, I'm interested in this issue is what is it that the Electricity Authority is going to be doing that the Electricity Commission couldn't do in respect of setting market rules that are going to improve competition in the market? Because that's what the Honourable Jerry Brownlee told us in the chair just some minutes ago, that these changes are going to reduce pressure on prices by improving competition. And I can't understand how that is, because I can't see anything in Part 2 that materially changes the powers from the existing Commission. And so I come back to this issue that I started to address in respect of the discussion on the first part of the debate, which is how can the Minister do anything but conclude that we don't have real competition in the electricity markets? I refer again to this example that we haven't had a response from the government on yet in respect of Alexandra power consumers. And I expect this is an issue that will have been raised by Jackie Dean, who I see is in the House. They sell to... No, that's actually not right, actually. They sell to Transpower, and that's how the market works. Well, no, actually, that's not how the market works, Jackie Dean. They don't. Transpower doesn't buy any power. Not 1 kilowatt, except for the power in their head office mainly. Maybe they have a wee bit of power in their head office, but they do not trade power. Ms Dean, you've got that completely wrong. What Transpower does is they transmit power. People buy services from Transpower who provide the grid, and electricity companies use that grid to transfer their power. You know absolutely nothing, I'm afraid, about how the electricity market works, Ms Dean. And no wonder your constituents come to me instead and complain in Alexandra about the ridiculously high tariff they have to pay in Alexandra. And the reality is that in Alexandra, which sits next to the Clutha River, nearby one of the biggest dams in New Zealand, the Clyde Dam, 10 kilometres down the other way, the Roxburgh Dam, generating probably 100 times the electricity demand of Alexandra, and yet Alexandra residents pay amongst the highest tariff for each kilowatt hour of power that they use in the country. Explain that to me, Ms Dean. If the market works, how is it that they, so close to the resource that actually generates the electricity, how do they pay so much of a high tariff for their electricity? Now, when I was Minister of Energy, this used to vex me. And so I used to ask the officials, can you please explain why the tariff is higher in Alexandra per unit of electricity than it is in other places that are further away? And there was never an adequate explanation given. And so I was always nervous that the reforms that we had from Max Bradford did not produce a sufficiently competitive market to constrain electricity prices, as evidenced by the fact that in Alexandra, next to these hydro stations, they pay more for their electricity. Now, I'm not talking about their lines charges. It's a different issue. They actually pay really high lines charges as well, partly because they're a geographically spread population. But in respect of their energy use, they pay more. What in this part, Minister, will constrain that problem? What will constrain that problem? Well, I'm ready to conclude, Ms Dean, that nothing in this legislation will constrain that in fact what's going on here is smoke and mirrors to cover the National Party's demand for higher dividends from the SOEs, and that there is no real constraint on power prices.
Honourable